Okay, yes, the budget process is very overwhelming. If you, it's sort of the timeline we begin with a budget process. You think about, we operate on a fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th, and we really, if we are looking at this next fiscal year, July 1, 2013, that's called the fiscal year 2014. As we begin that year in July, we are already in the process of beginning to start to take a look at the following year's budget, July fiscal year 2015. In July and August, what we're trying to do is start with the process of taking a look at the comprehensive plan. And for those who are interested, the comprehensive plan is on the city's website, and you're encouraged to, when you're trying to figure out what's going on in the community and some of the roles that a council needs to have, getting to know what that document has in it, is included in it. It's a vision of the next 20 years, and it's some of the guiding principles for what projects, what areas have been deemed important by the community, and to take that into account as you try to set policy directives. So in July, August, we begin looking at that plan and seeing what are the priorities that were targeted there for whether it's street improvements, trail improvements, community enhancements, and start to take a look at, with the ones that are identified in there, which are the ones that are going to be taken on first. What does the document call for to try to take on first? What do we feel can realistically be done? With that in mind, then we move into the September through November timeframe where a capital improvement plan is put together. When we're doing that, we're looking at a 5-year capital improvement plan. What projects, what equipment can we look at for trying to update or repair, enhance, or whatever that might be. And we're trying to base that 5-year plan on priorities that have been developed from that comprehensive plan, reviewing that document, as well as objectives and goals from staff and council, and trying to mesh all those together. And it sets a backdrop as we go into November. Departments start to put their budgets together for the following year. December through January, we begin to get those submitted into one comprehensive document and presented to the council. And in January to February, the council then is working to prioritize out of all the different elements that are in there, based on the funding that's needed to accomplish what's being requested, where are the priorities, what areas may possibly need to be eliminated, which ones need to be enhanced, and then we present that as that process gets a finalized budget. March is a public hearing, and it gets submitted to the state. By requirement is to have that done by March 15, and there are some very strict guidelines. We don't get any leeway on that March 15 deadline, and we don't really know what our primary funding source, which is property taxes, where our base value is until we get into the beginning of January. So it's a very limited time frame for where we can make those decisions about how to get a budget that's balanced and very doable. In regards to learning a little bit more about the city budget, we internally have a couple of different documents. I think the budget's on the website. We have a nice thick one that is very daunting to take a look at for the first time, and actually very daunting to look at for the 10th time. That's about 300 pages long. It is on the website. We also have a hard copy, and as we get to the end of the year, we do another report that's basically an audit and takes a review of the financial statements for the city. We do not have that on the website, but for council members coming in, it is a very good document to take a look at the past year and to get to an idea of what has happened in the city in the past. The League of Cities has some tremendous resources online. So going to the Iowa League of Cities website, you can get some decent documents. Actually, and before you're a council member, a lot of that material it's password encrypted, so it's not easily accessible. Although we can, at the staff level, for those who are trying to get a leg up and try to figure out some background material, we can help to get access to some of those documents. But just if if you go onto the league's website, you'll find that they have, they have just a lot of different ideas. Effective elected officials, an easy document on that. A document on newly elected officials, and just a bunch of bullet point items for recommended things to think about in a process for when to do it. Actually, with the newly elected officials website or link on the website, it talks about steps to take prior to taking office, things to do the first 30 days in office, the first 60 days in office, the first 90 days in office, and some just background material that you want to take a look and make sure that you hit these different bullet point items so that you get a good idea of what's going on in each area. The League of Cities as well, not just the resources on their website, but for once you are elected to office, they do a 4-part training program that begins, the election is the first Tuesday in November. The first orientation that they have, I think, is the latter half of November. Municipal Leadership Academy is what it's called. And their goal there is to try to give you an idea how the framework of city government works, how it fits within the context of state and federal rules, what the limitations are that are placed on you, what your flexibility is as a council member, getting to learn how your local ordinances work, well, actually even getting to know general terms. What is an ordinance versus a resolution, so you have an understanding of some of these basic concepts that you need to know as you start to make policy decisions. In their process, it mentions 4 parts, and they begin that right after the election. I think they have one session in November. The second one would be in the January time frame, a third one in March, and then the final one they do at the annual conference in September. And having it spread out over that length of time can be sort of difficult in terms of you don't get all the knowledge at once, but it also takes into account that learning to be a new council member, it doesn't happen overnight. And you need to have the help of other council members, you need the help of staff, you need the resources from the League of Cities. And you think about what the League of Cities is, they are there specifically to keep local communities out of trouble and to help us to know what needs to be done. In regards to the city budget and trying to identify what's the most important, that's kind of difficult. I think that more of the process is learning how a budget is structured. We have rules that are put on us for how we have to do a budget by state statute. There's some city finance rules. In fact, within the state code of ordinances, there's a section on how city finances are to work. We have several general accounting standards that are put out that regulate how we have to track funds that are very cumbersome, and they are difficult to get to get to understand, starting to talk about general fund versus a special revenue fund versus a capital project fund, and how funds move between them really complicates the matter, and it takes a lot of time to get to work to understand how they all fit together. What ends up happening for council for spending time on tends to be the general fund. It's a part that has the most flexibility in terms of the revenue coming in. It's the primary place where the property taxes go in, and you're funding police, fire, your library, your parks and recs programs, community development, and you have the most option in that fund to determine how are we as a local community going to prioritize where we put money at. And it ends up being a place where it may not be the most significant dollar amount. The capital projects tends to be the most significant dollar amount area, as do proprietary funds such as the sewer plant, but it's the one where you have the most flexibility and the most disagreement between different individuals as to what the priority of the community should be. So coming in on council, you'll find that the majority of your time is going to be spent there and trying to weigh out the relative importance of those different services, whether it's emergency services or community enhancement like Park and Rec. We have some different mechanisms in place for trying to make sure that staff and elected officials are able to be on the same page and working together. And part of it is we do a goal setting session every other year historically in Burlington. That goal setting session takes the time to have the staff put in their priorities in terms of areas within their departments that they see that need attention, that haven't been addressed over time, areas that they feel based off of what they've garnered from people, and we'd look at the comprehensive plan as well and try to figure out where can we make things happen, and give those list of priorities to the council as to what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats are, the traditional SWOT analysis. And then the council gets to take that information into account. They take their own different priorities that they've come into office with. It's understandable. Everybody's has a reason why you're coming into office, and you need to be able to have a chance to put time and attention into it. The goal setting session tries to allow a spot where the 5 council members can mesh the different thoughts, the goals, objectives, priorities that they have, see where they can mesh them together and come up with a focused set of priorities for the upcoming 2 years. Our goal, in the past that was done in the spring. This last year we did it just prior to budget session, and it really works well prior to budget session because then it can really be a big key planning part for how we go about making the budget work. In terms of working with staff, we know that we cannot be successful staff-wise unless we're able to understand what council wants, and we're able to communicate as well what we see as priorities so that we're on the same page. The more time that we're able to flesh out between elected officials and staff, put together our priorities and work on them together and get a good understanding of what the options are that are available. The more that we're able to do that, the more effective all of us can be. And I guess one of the encouraging things to throw out for council is we want to make sure that we get as much information to you as we can. We also need to know where we're not getting enough information to you so that we understand what areas do you need more time and attention to, and try to get that to you. We want to make sure that all of us are working together and that we don't end up in a spot where any of us does something that compromises the community. I think that the most important thing to know for new council members coming in, whether it is in regards to the budget itself or anything else, is taking the time to get to know what the rules are, to know where there are things that can get us in trouble. I mean, we are a very highly regulated entity, and we need to make decisions that fall within the context of not putting the city in jeopardy. There's an understanding that if you talk to any of the existing council members, they'll tell you there's a learning curve involved. It takes a while to get up to speed, and it's we as staff know that too. This is our daily lives, so for us a lot of it comes, it's just sort of the given of what our work world is. For you coming in, we want to make sure that we can help you to get up to speed as quick as possible. There is no such thing as a stupid question during that process, and getting to know how even how the council relates in a council meeting. Asking other council members for advice, but doing it in a way that doesn't violate open meetings law. That's you start doing some of the trainings like Municipal Leadership Academy. Some of the things that they're trying to help us do is to keep from violating some big rules that can get all of us into a lot of trouble. So we want to make sure that education occurs, and again, no question is a stupid question, and any spot that we can help to try to get more knowledge to you, the better off all of us are.